Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook. Got Justin Wells with me, got Coach Dub with me. We are back for another episode of Recruiting Intel, and we were all over the state this past weekend, seeing Texas commits, Texas targets, Texas everything all over the state of Texas. We'll talk a little bit about quarterback recruiting, commits seeing campus, some other top targets seeing campus, and then some notes from the 7-on-7 circuit. So, Justin, Charlie, I got a question for y'all. Do y'all remember the last time Texas took two quarterbacks in the same class?
2020.
There you go.
Hey.
Jackson, Hudson Card. I had to be reminded of that because I was thinking, oh, yeah, it's Cam Rising and Casey Thompson, who, oddly enough, are both going to be playing college football this year in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
But it looks like the 2025 class could end up, or has the potential at least, to end up being a two-quarterback class. Obviously, there's KJ Lacey from Saraland, Alabama, already committed last June. His parents had seen campus. Steve Sarkisian knew who he was a little bit going back to his time at Alabama. Jumped in the boat. Still is being pursued by Oregon, Auburn, and Ole Miss, but has remained pretty firmly committed to Texas. Seen Texas, has no other visits officially scheduled anywhere else. But Justin, there seems to be a new name this time from the state of Texas, one that's gathering a lot of steam, I guess to say, as someone who could join the Longhorns 2025 class should an offer head his way.
Yeah, that man is named Keelan Russell. He was the quarterback of the state champion Duncanville Panthers. He's a guy, it's kind of funny. The last time Texas went two quarterback class, it was also a Duncanville quarterback and Jaquindon Jackson. And so it would make sense for them to do that again, considering that pipeline from Duncanville to Austin is flowing spectacular. Let me tell you something. Keelan Russell can throw it. I was a little in doubt of him last year. I kind of felt like it was more of a system guy, surrounded by just a ton of talent. I was wrong. Keelan Russell can spin it. He has some serious upside, maybe as much as KJ Lacey. And so when you look at the chart, I had a good buddy ask me this yesterday. What's the normal amount of scholarship quarterbacks on any college program at any given time? I told him between 4 and 5. Usually don't go over 5, but you usually have at least 4. Texas has 3. And they're not going to add any more in 2024. We know that for sure. And so that, if you look down the road, because Quinn Ewers is going to be departing for the NFL next year, they need 2 more. And I don't think he wants to go. I don't think Sark wants to go to the portal for that. Keelan Russell has joined the conversation. Texas has had multiple conversations with him. They're going to come see him again this spring. A.J. Milwee wants to come watch him, the quarterback coach at Texas. He's committed to SMU. I feel like that's kind of a holding place for him right now. But the biggest news is that him and Lacey know each other. And I think they're both kind of aware of the other's circumstance. And often it's hard to get 2 high-end quarterbacks into the same cycle. But Sark is a little different than everybody else. And I think if someone can pull that off, it's going to be Steve Sarkisian, especially when it's for the betterment of the program. And so it's going to be interesting. They're going to watch Keelan this year. They're going to monitor him. They're going to pay attention to him. And also understand Keelan is throwing to the top offensive wide receiver target on the big board for Texas, DeCorian Moore, committed to LSU. And you might want to think, well, maybe that's a little bit to do with DK. Just turn on Russell's film. He's a take, whether he's throwing to DeCorian Moore or anybody else. Like this guy is a legit kid. He looked incredible at the Under Armour Next Camp in Dallas a couple weeks ago that we all saw. And so this could be a 2-quarterback class, Joe. Do not rule this out. And especially also, you want to stay close with Keelan and some of these other guys because Auburn is still coming after Lacey. We know how they play. Ole Miss is still coming after Lacey. They know how to NIL. Kiffin is a monster. And so, like you said, it's going to be interesting how that pretends. Joe, you actually got to see Lacey on Sunday. You're the only one on this staff that's seen this kid throw the football in person.
Yeah.
And so you are now the voice of KJ Lacey. I wanted to ask you, tell me what you saw from him at Elite 11 and kind of what he talked about afterwards about Russell and things of that sort.
Yeah, windy day at Westlake High School, second of the Elite 11 regional events, and both Lacey and Russell earned invites to the Elite 11 finals, which will be this summer in California. I think Oklahoma's quarterback commit
Kevin
did.
Sperry.
Kevin Sperry did as well. They know they met each other. They talked like, hey, you're a quarterback, you're a quarterback. There's no like bad blood or anything, but they just don't know each other that much. And both were asked like, what do you think about a 2 quarterback class? And both gave the answers that if you're Steve Sarkisian, if you're a Texas fan, you want to hear. I want to compete. Like, I want to be the guy. But Russell is also pretty honest about it. He's like, I have schools telling me I can be their 1 quarterback in the class. So it's going to have to be, if Texas does issue an offer, which sounds, if it does happen, may come at the spring game because I believe that's when
Yes.
Russell said he plans to visit. That's what he told Inside Texas. They want to, they've seen him play, obviously, because they've watched Colin Simmons and Alex January and DeCorian Moore play. So they know what he's like as a player. They're trying to get a little bit more of a read on him as a person, and that's what that spring game visit is like. But like you mentioned, Ole Miss, a conversation for both these quarterbacks. I think Russell is going to take a trip out there this upcoming week. And Lacey obviously is hearing from Ole Miss, like you said, Auburn, those in Oregon, those seem to be the main ones. So I think if this is a 2 quarterback class, we're talking about the candidates. We're talking about Lacey. We're talking about Russell. And Coach, I'm kind of curious, in your experience recruiting 2 quarterbacks into the same class, especially with the portal, how quarterbacks are now, how difficult is it to accomplish that task in college football in 2024?
It can be hard because every quarterback is only one spot on the field for a quarterback, like every other. That's different from every other spot. So it's tricky. So you just want to see what kind of guys you're recruiting. How competitive are they? Do they mind coming in with another guy and letting them know where they're at? Being honest and saying, hey, this is where we're at. Depth wise, this is what we need. And see if those guys want to come in and compete versus each other, right? If those guys don't shy away from that, that's who you want on your team, if you ask me, because they're not going to shy away from trying to take the lead of a team. And so you just be honest with those guys and say, hey, I'm recruiting 2 quarterbacks. That's the only thing that's what I'm taking. And this is why we need 2 quarterbacks. And you can use current recent events of Florida State quarterback going down. They didn't have a backup, right? So use those real life situations to say, hey, this is why we need 2 quarterbacks, and just be honest.
You've been scouting Duncanville. I think basically anybody who pays attention to high-end football in Texas has seen Duncanville. And guys like Keelan Russell and DeCorian Moore have helped that offense move in a little bit different direction from what it used to be when someone like Jaquindon Jackson and even someone for that quick year like Chris Parson were there for the Panthers. Because of their talent, they're airing the ball out a little bit more than maybe Reggie Samples has in years past, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that also helps. You got Coach Todd Peterson over there who came from DeSoto,
Yep.
kind of opened up the offense a little bit. And so I'm looking at the projection of just like Russell, seeing how he's grown, right? And playing quarterback there opened up. I say it kind of changed when they got Grayson James a few years ago, who played at jump ball. Now he's at Boston College, right? He wasn't a mobile quarterback, but he can sit back there and throw the ball from the pocket. And so now you kind of just see that integrating it to the game and just coming with the times the way football's played now, in space versus that just power downhill running game.
They can do both, but when you got guys like Russell and Moore, why not take your shots downfield? Justin, I was in Austin. You were in Houston. And you got to see a little bit of an interesting event. There's 7-on-7. Everybody knows what that is. There's also 5x5, and an organization, California Power, who's got guys from all over the country, including Texas defensive tackle commit Brandon Brown, on their way through the Lone Star State, stopped by Austin. And that was actually Brandon Brown's first time to meet, a lot of different people at Texas, meet Kenny Baker, see Steve Sarkisian, and see the 40 acres for the first time.
Yeah, it was our first time. Your first time to see KJ Lacey throw the ball. It was my first time to see Brandon Brown in person. And at first, when I came up, they were already working out, and he is aggressive. He is like a low center of gravity, get underneath you. He was giving the tackles absolute hell, and it was good. I thought, all right, this is a good start to the day. And then so I talked to him for a good minute afterwards. Posted a great story at InsideTexas.com. Be sure and check it out. Come hang out with us. But ultimately, he loved it, which I expected. I expected that. But I think it surprised his mother with how much he liked it. You know, I talked to her, Miss Naisha, at length, and she said, you know, Brandon doesn't talk very much. He really doesn't say much. She said, but at one point during the trip, he just turned around and looked at her and he goes, I'm just so excited to be here. He's never said that about a place before. And so Texas did a tremendous job at making them feel like he's already home. That's the biggest thing he told me. Sark and those guys, Coach Baker, made him feel like he's at home. They had a presentation. Kenny Baker went all out. They had a presentation. When they walked into his office, he had 3 separate 8x10s framed of their family in different photos sitting along the desk. As soon as they walked in, projector was up. They went ahead and went through it. He went through his tape, and he said, I love what you do here. I love what you're doing here. I love what you're doing there. And Brandon's mom said, well, what about the other stuff? And he goes, oh, there's other stuff. He turns the page and starts ripping his defensive line commit on what he's not doing well. And it went on for about 10 minutes. And that won the mom instantly. Brandon was a little brought back, but mama loved it. And so, you know, Brandon loved the trip. He's going to be back for his official in June. USC is the school you got to watch there. He's got a lot of guys coming after him. LSU. Bo Davis is trying to take every target he had at Texas and at least get him to Baton Rouge in some form or fashion on an official, on a trip, whatever. Bo Davis is being relentless right now. And he's trying to get Brandon Brown there as well. I think USC's tough. Florida was the kind of the in-state school that was on him early enough, but it looks like he's going to want to go. He's a kid that wants to leave the state, and I think that'll be fine. Mom doesn't mind that if he ends up in Austin, Texas. That's a flight. That's not too bad. California, on the other hand, maybe a little farther than Mama prefers. But she is adamant that it'll be Brandon's decision when he makes it. And another note, you know, was fun. It was fun is that the Duncanville Edge 2026 4-star Kevin Ford, KJ Ford, they're related. And Ford is already a big Texas fan. Colin Simmons is already working on him. And also, Brandon's older brother played football at Arkansas Monticello with the D-line analyst at Texas. So there's a lot of little angles and dots that are starting to connect in this relationship and in this commitment. And I think Texas did a tremendous job. Even the mom admitted afterwards, she said, you know, I think it was that post-visit buzz. She says, I think he was on kind of a little high on it. She said, but afterwards, when they got home, he's still talking up Texas. He felt like he was in the right place. And so that recruitment isn't over. I think USC is going to come full strength. Brandon even told me that they are probably recruiting him harder than anybody right now. But at the end of the day, I think he wants to play in the SEC. I think Mama wants him as close as they can. And they've even looked at the schedule where Texas goes to Florida in 2025. And so I like the Horns' chances so much more now after that initial visit.
Charlie, when you have these situations where maybe you get a prospect who's only visited once and makes a commitment, what do you do when you get them back on campus and you have these opportunities to reinforce and strengthen the relationship you want to maintain to get that signature in early December?
Yeah, well, like Justin said, like Coach Baker hit it out the park. Like he had it set up perfect for the meeting. That's what you want to do. If a guy has never been on campus, you want to go all out. And so the next time you get a chance to get them on campus, use everything you know about that kid. So when he shows up, make it personalized. Make it a personalized recruiting trip for him when he gets there. So he feels at home when he gets there. Not just all the good things you want to hear, but be real with him and use the relationship that you built with him throughout. Like talking to him on the phone, through text, DM, whatever it is, use that. So you can get that kid comfortable with you and just, you know, try to just earn his commitment from him and mom, uncle, whoever else you got to. Like work the network of the Brown family and then try to gain that commitment.
This is a position Texas definitely needs to add some quality players. Brandon Brown's one of them after a lot of others within the state of Texas. But hanging on to his commitment will definitely be key throughout this cycle. Justin, there's also another big-time prospect in Josh Petty. Introduce our viewers to who Josh Petty is, considering he's from Georgia, and what some of the latest, what he saw on his visit to Texas.
Yeah, Josh Petty's a name just to kind of stash away. One of the top offensive tackles in the country. I believe he's On3 industry ranking number 4 tackle in the country, if I'm not mistaken. About 6'4.5", 6'5", probably 275, 280. I mean, the kid looks fantastic. There is no bad weight on this guy. He's the mold and the clay that you want. And you just assume he's in Georgia, so he'll be a Georgia Bulldog, and that's not the right assumption right now. Now Georgia's clearly in it, and he told me, the Bulldogs are pushing those back-to-back championships and trying to get him on board. Clemson seems to be the school maybe to beat in this one. He plays at Fellowship Christian, and so I think Dabu Swinney has kind of used that angle a little bit in trying to get closer to him, but he had never been to Texas before. And the first thing he told me was, they say everything is bigger in Texas. It really is. And it's always funny to hear out of state kids talk about UT and of that sort. Petty loved Cal Flood. He loved he said there was burnt orange everywhere. He said the facilities were massive. He said everybody was on the same page. Everybody was so cool and polite. He's getting recruited by an O-line coach named Stacy Searles, and he learned that he met his daughter on a Friday during the visit. Miss Taylor Searles that works within the recruiting department at Texas. And so Petty had never put the two and two together. And so at the end of the day, they're talking about a potential official visit potentially in June. I'm not sure if that gets made. I know that Petty left with a really good impression, but I think this one's going to be one that Texas, you just need to remember his name and stash it in the back, because until he gets back on campus, I don't know how much real it's going to be.
Yeah, he's one of the higher ranked recruits. I think top 20, number 18, something like that, right, in the nation. So this is going to be a big battle, and those regional powers don't want him to get outside of about an hour radius from where he is in Georgia. One last thing to touch on, but before we get there, got to give a little bit of a shout out to our friend Andre the Lawyer. Andre the Lawyer is a longtime Inside Texas user. They never take more than their clients. No win, no pay, no upfront cost. Their principal office is in Dallas, Texas, and Andre the Lawyer has been representing injured Longhorns throughout Texas. Every client gets a personalized text message number so they can contact the team and get direct access to the lawyer all day and night. Call Andre the Lawyer at 214-444-8808, whether you're in a car wreck, an 18-wheeler accident, slip and fall, an on-the-job injury, or involved in a wrongful death. Call Andre the Lawyer at 214-444-8808. One last topic to touch on, and that is some notes from the 7-on-7 circuit. Lots of different events going on throughout the state of Texas. And Coach, you were up at one in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and saw some major Texas targets when you were there.
Yeah, definitely. So got a chance to see DeCorey Moore, Emmanuel Choice, Zane Row was there. So you got a lot of guys competing. The True Buzz family 7-on-7 team was there, like all different age groups. They ended up taking the trophy home, but to see those guys compete, and 7-on-7 can get very competitive. It's very chatty. So you want to see what guy's going to back down, right? Back down or going to step up to the challenge and really go out there and compete. So it was just good to see those guys go out there and compete in that setting, and this kind of solidifies who they are as players and as people. Like, they're not backing down from a challenge, but it was good to see those guys just go compete in DeSoto this past weekend.
Everybody's pretty familiar with DeCorey and Moore at this point, but Emmanuel Choice is a name that Texas has even offered, did so in December, and you went and saw him. It doesn't have a return visit set up, but you heard from him that Chris Jackson remains in contact with him even at this point in March.
Before I went to go visit, he had just got off the phone 20 minutes prior to me visiting Lancaster High School this past week. So the relationship there, they're continuing to build a relationship. Coach Chris Jackson, Coach Sarkeesian calls him, continues to stay on him. Of course, you have Coach Chris Gilbert, who used to be the head coach at Lancaster, who's now at Texas. So you have that relationship there. And I think Texas is going to continue to try and build a relationship there and see where they fall. Who knows where the recruiting ends up at? But I think you keep pushing. Maybe you replace one of the top 5 visits that he has as an official visit by the end of it. So we'll see.
And then with Zane Row, he's a younger prospect, I think class of 2027. But this is definitely a player to get familiar with, because in the coming years, I think anybody who really follows and tracks recruiting is going to want to know who Zane Row is. Has a positional versatility, but what did you see from him when he was playing 7-on-7?
Well, seeing him out there, receiver, tight end, whatever you want to call him, like, that kid's competitive. He doesn't back down from a challenge. Just seeing him out there going against some of the bigger name guys and bigger DBs. And then I'll get ready to see him on the 30th. He'd be at a D-line, camp. And it's like, man, this kid does it all. But just seeing his athletic ability to be able to go out there and catch the ball and run routes and see how fluid he is for such a young guy and go up and compete for the ball, for a 50-50 ball. So just seeing him do that shows what kind of competitor he is. And I can't wait to continue to see more of him on both sides of the ball.
Putting both of y'all on the spot, Charlie, if you had to pick a position, what do you give to Zane?
I'm going edge, DN. I really think that versatility, that kind of speed, flexibility, putting him as an edge rusher, I think he'd be dangerous.
I think he's a lighter in the britches version of Lance Jackson. And I think he can definitely play edge at the next level. He's raw, as we saw at the camp a couple weeks ago. And he has, skills to play wide receiver, to play tight end, to flex out, to be one of those big weapons. But tight ends don't go in the draft as early as edge guys. And there's not a demand in the NFL for edge like there are, like for tight ends like there are for edge. And so I'm with Coach. I think the kid could be an edge. And knowing Denton Geyer, he might wind up being an edge anyway, because they have a penchant for putting their best athletes on the defensive side of the ball sometimes. So either way, Coach is right. Zane Row is going to be a name to know for the next 3 years.
That will do it for this edition of Recruiting Intel. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also head to InsideTexas.com. You can get 1 month of access for just $1 using our March Madness promo. That'll get you past the spring game and into some peak transfer portal time where the Longhorns are sure to be active. Coach, thank you so much. Justin, thank you. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.